Hello, my name is Lisa Palmer and I'm the General Manager of Distribution and Advice at Statewide Super, and it's my pleasure to be your MC this evening. To commence the formalities, I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal language groups and other First Nations people around the country. In our presentation today, we are only speaking in general terms. What you will hear is in no way personal advice and does not take into account your specific personal and financial needs. We must also remember that investment returns can go up or down and are not guaranteed. Past performance is not a reliable indicator of future performance. On behalf of the board and staff of Statewide Super, I would like to welcome you to our 2021 annual member meeting. Tonight we will share with you a fund and investment update. All member questions will be answered and published on the Statewide Super website, along with the minutes of the meeting within 30 days. The board and executive team of Statewide Super are present this evening, along with our fund actuary, Louise Campbell from Willis Towers Watson, and our auditors, KPMG, represented by Darren Ball. Tonight you will hear from the Independent Chair of the Board, Kenneth Williams, Chief Executive Officer, Tony D'Alessandro, and Chief Investment Officer, Con Michaelakis. Chief Executive Officer, Tony D'Alessandro, is responsible for the strategy and overall leadership of your fund. Tony has been in the financial services industry for more than 40 years, and has managed the executive teams of some of Australia's largest retail banks, including 9 years as General Manager of the Commonwealth Private Bank and 3 years as CEO of Symmetry Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Commonwealth Bank. Tony will provide an overview of what Statewide Super has been delivering for you over the last 12 months, including a progress update on the proposed merger with Hostplus. Chief Investment Officer Con Michaelakis has been with Statewide Super since 2008. He has extensive experience in the management of investment portfolios across the globe, including 2 years with Pzena operating out of New York. In addition, Con is a trusted economic voice in the South Australian and national media. Con will provide an overview of the fund's investment performance. But first, I'd like to introduce Ken Williams, our Independent Chair, to provide an address on behalf of the board. Ken has been the Independent Chair of the Statewide Super Board since January 2017. He was initially appointed to the board as an Independent Director in 2012 and served as Chair of the Investment Committee from 2012 to 2016. He is currently also a Director of Lifetime Support Authority and a Non-Executive Director of Archer Materials Limited, an ASX-listed company. He is the member of the Council of the University of Adelaide, Chair of the University of Adelaide Endowment Fund, and is a Fellow of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. Ken's breadth and depth of experience, especially in finance and governance, is a strong foundation for the experienced board. Please welcome Ken Williams.
Thank you, Lisa. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to address our Statewide Super members at our 2021 annual member meeting. I would also like to acknowledge our First Nations people and recognise their deep and enduring connection to country. This has been my 5th year as Independent Chair of Statewide Super, and it has proved once again to be an eventful year, and despite that, we're in a stronger position than anticipated 12 months ago. Our commitment to supporting our members to achieve a dignified retirement has not wavered. I would like to acknowledge my fellow directors who are in attendance online this evening. Your Statewide Super directors play an important role in the objective, non-executive oversight and governance of the strategic decisions and operations of the fund. The directors do this through the board and its 5 board committees. The Remuneration and Nomination Committee provides oversight of the remuneration arrangements and the selection, appointment and performance of the board and senior executives. The Chair, Anne McEwen, is joined by David Holston, Emma Thornton and myself. The Audit and Governance Committee provides oversight of the reporting, audit and governance framework. The directors who oversee this committee during the financial year ending 30 June 2021 were Chair Yvonne Snedden, Stephanie Key and Vincent Tremaine. The Risk Committee provides oversight of the risk management framework. The directors who oversaw this committee were Chair John Woodward, Yvonne Snedden, Anne McEwen and Matthew Pinnegar. The Investment Committee provides oversight of the investment policies. The directors who oversaw this committee are David Holston, John Woodward, Linda White and myself. The Member Services Committee provides oversight of products and services including marketing and member communication, member services, general advice, intra-fund and comprehensive advice, insurance and complaints management. The directors who oversaw this committee were Chair Ian Steele, Stephanie Key, Vincent Tremaine and Linda White. I'd like to thank our two outgoing board members, Yvonne Snedden and Stephanie Key, who left the statewide Super Board on 30 June 2021. Thanks to Yvonne and Stephanie for their work and commitment to ensure statewide Super delivers the best possible member outcomes. We welcomed two new board members in July. Grant Strawbridge joined on 9 July and is now Chair of the Audit Governance Committee and a member of the Risk Committee. Angus Story joined on the 29th of July and is on the Member Services Committee. The past financial year has continued to reinforce the importance of super in the lives of Australians and the role it plays in our economy. We know our members continue to feel the effects of the global pandemic, with some businesses remaining closed and many people having reduced income. When the government announced the second round of early release of superannuation in July 2020, we answered more than 10,000 member calls to help them through the application process between July and December 2020. More than 15,000 of our members took one or more early release payments, totalling close to 120 million. This year, we've also made operational changes to comply with new legislation. The introduction of Your Future, Your Super, which includes members' best financial interest, stapling, and the introduction of an annual performance test, has resulted in significant change to the landscape in which we operate. The performance test conducted by APRA on My Super products is intended to hold superannuation funds to account through greater transparency and increased consequences. I'm pleased to confirm statewide super passed this test. This test will be broadened to apply to other super products from 1 July 2022. Statewide super adheres to the requirements of the Workplace Gender Equality Act 2012 and reports on gender composition and current policies and practices on how they contribute to several gender equality indicators. As at 30 June 2021, the board had 5 female directors and 6 male directors. With the outgoing and incoming board directors, we now have 3 female and 8 male directors. But as part of our continuing focus on restoring the balance of gender equity, we have identified a female director to replace a male director who will be retiring shortly. In regards to statewide super's workforce, as at 31 March 2021, the gender composition was 62% female and 38% male. There are 55% female managers and 45% male. The gender composition for promotions with the business were 64% female and 45% male, and additionally, 18% of promotions were awarded to part-time employees. Going forward, there is government and regulator pressure for super funds to be of a particular size and scale so they can continue to deliver beneficial outcomes to members. Therefore, it is clear that smaller funds should be considering mergers. You will be aware that Statewide has announced we are exploring a merger with Hostplus. In June 2021, we announced formal discussions had commenced with Hostplus as the first stage in working towards a potential merger. This followed a period of extensive consideration about the long-term strategic benefits for our members if we were to merge with another prominent well-performing fund. We entered into initial conversations with 5 large-scale national funds, and this was narrowed into a more detailed expression of interest process with 3 funds, during which Hostplus emerged as the preferred merger partner. Tony will explain in more detail why we chose Hostplus and how the merger discussions are progressing. But a merger between our 2 leading profit for member industry super funds is expected to create a multi-sector national fund with over 1.4 million members, 258,000 contributing employers, and more than $90 billion in funds under management. Due diligence is still underway to ensure this merger will be in the best interest of members of both funds. Significantly, for you, our members, we want to reassure you that our unwavering commitment to South Australia and the Northern Territory remains. I'm also pleased to confirm that the Northern Territory Government is aware of the potential merger and has renewed their contract with us for 2 more years. We are retaining all local staff in Adelaide and Darwin, so you'll still be able to pick up the phone or come into the Super Hub or our Darwin office to speak to a local. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, our members, for your ongoing support and the trust you place in us. This is likely the last annual member meeting we will hold as statewide super. It has been our honour to invest your retirement savings and to help you ensure that you're on a journey to a dignified retirement. Please now welcome Chief Executive Tony D'Alessandro. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us this evening. In the spirit of reconciliation, I would like to acknowledge and pay personal respects to the Kaurna people, the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today. I also extend this respect to the First Nations people across Australia and acknowledge their deep attachment to country. Statewide Super is your local super fund. We're headquartered in Adelaide with roots stretching across South Australia into the Northern Territory and beyond. We have strong local teams in Adelaide and Darwin. We've been part of the South Australian fabric for more than 30 years, and we're proud of how our presence in the Northern Territory continues to grow. Our aim tonight is to provide you, our members, with information about the fund and to help you achieve the best possible retirement outcomes. No matter what stage of life you're at, we're there for you, carefully managing the investments and administration of your retirement savings. For the time you get your first job, Statewide Super can help support you in your journey towards retirement. When you're making major decisions like starting a family, Statewide Super can advise on things like life insurance to ensure you're protecting your most important assets. Then, when you're ready to sit back and enjoy your retirement, we're here to help you maximise the savings you spent a lifetime building. It's a tremendous responsibility, but that's our job. We're honoured that around 144,000 of you trust Statewide Super to guide you on this journey. The organisation is led by a capable and dedicated executive team who are in attendance tonight. On screen, you will see an overview of our organisational structure, which highlights the leadership team and their respective specialised portfolios. I'd like to talk in detail about a few things. I'd like to give you a brief overview of the fund over the past 12 months, including our investment performance. I'd like to talk about recent changes to superannuation regulations, which have impacted our operations. I'll touch on our ongoing remediation of the self-reported insurance administration error. And finally, I'll provide a brief update on the proposed merger between Statewide Super and Hostplus. As at the 30th of June 2021, we had close to 144,000 members around Australia. Approximately 120 of those were in South Australia, nearly 10,000 in the Territory, and more than 14,500 around Australia and overseas. At the end of the financial year, we also held $11.4 billion in funds under management. I'm delighted that once again, we've been awarded the highest 5-star rating from Australia's largest consumer financial comparison site, Canstar, for our accumulation MySuper product in 2021 for the 4th year in a row. You've told us that having a local team available to support your superannuation needs in person is highly valued. This was validated by over 4,700 members participating in online and in-person education sessions. we answered over 75,000 calls from our members, delivered over 900 comprehensive financial planning sessions and over 1,600 personal advice sessions. Between July 2020 and June 2021, we welcomed over 4,500 visitors to our super hub in Victoria Square, Tartanyanga. A total of 543 members benefited from successful insurance claims to a value of $39 million to help those members through their most traumatic times, and we had 19,771 new member joins this year. Most recently, we made some important changes to our superannuation product. The changes were made to reflect our diverse membership base that have varying insurance needs. If you go on parental leave, we can waive your premium for up to 12 months. A certain significant moment, you can apply to increase your insurance cover without underwriting. This applies within 6 months of getting married, being a parent, or taking out a mortgage. We've separated death and total and permanent disablement cover into two different categories. This will allow for the value of death and total and permanent disablement to be different and will give our members more flexibility. Our members will also be able to keep a higher level of automatic death and total and permanent disablement cover for longer, reducing from the age of 35 rather than 31, as was previously the case. Now let's talk about investment performance. Over the past year, I'll touch on this briefly as our Chief Investment Officer, Con Michalakis, will share more detail with you later. At Statewide Super, we've been long-term investors in some key local success stories. For example, in South Australia, we invest in two pieces of major infrastructure. The fund owns 19.53% of the Adelaide Airport and 14% of Flinders Port. It's this long-term investment in these assets that has been key, and we believe long-term investing is key for our members as well. That's why we focus on long-term returns. Over 7 years, 7 out of our 10 investment options return results in the top quartile, meeting top 25% of funds surveyed by independent rating agency Super Ratings, and 9 out of 10 options above median. I can also share our rolling 1-year result to the 30th of June 2021. Statewide Super's My Super option returned 18.14%, which is above the median return of 17.72 for the period 1 July 2020 to the 30th of June 2021. I want to congratulate Con and the Statewide Super investment team for the positive results they've achieved, not only in the final financial year up to 30th of June 2021, but in the months since. Con will provide up-to-date returns shortly. In 2021 alone, multiple changes were made to superannuation. The good news is, many of the new measures are intended to help build and protect your retirement savings, whatever your circumstances. We're supportive of these changes and we've advocated for many of them, with the motive of delivering better outcomes for you, our members. On 1st of July this year, the superannuation guarantee, otherwise known as the percentage of your salary that your employer pays in the form of superannuation contributions, rose from 9.5% to 10%. This is the first step in the increase that will bring superannuation contributions up to 12% by 2025, which will put more money into your superannuation account. This has the potential to make a significant difference to your quality of life in retirement. Another significant change is stapling, which came into effect on the 1st of November 2021. Put simply, stapling means that when you start a new job, your employer will be required to pay into your existing superannuation account rather than opening a new account each time you change jobs. This means that your super will follow you throughout your career, therefore minimising the changes of multiple unwanted superannuation accounts and fees attached to them. The government estimates that Australians will collectively save close to $2.8 billion over the next decade as a result of stapling. But you need to be vigilant. You need to make sure you're not stapled to a potentially underperforming fund with higher than average fees, poor returns, or even both. And there's good news for those who earn less than $450 per month in income. Legislation is proposed that from July next year, your employer will be obliged to pay your super on every dollar you earn, removing the current $450 per month threshold under which you're not paid superannuation. This means more Australians, including at least 220,000 more women, will be on a journey to a better quality of life in retirement. You may be aware in May of 2021, we self-reported an insurance administration error to the Australian Security and Investment Commission, ASIC. The error related to the implementation of an insurance rule in our administration system. As a result, some members were given incorrect information about their insurance cover and may have been wrongly charged insurance premium. We are continuing with our program for remediation, which is supported by independent external experts. I want to let you know that overpaid premiums will be refunded and any insurance entitlement will be honoured. We will communicate directly with all affected members, so there is no need for you to do anything. Now I'll speak briefly about the progress of the proposed merger with Hostplus. I want to share our excitement about this as the next stage in the evolution of our 30-plus-year-old organisation. We first shared news about the proposed merger in June of this year, and formal due diligence commenced in August. As I mentioned earlier, the superannuation regulatory environment has become increasingly complex. APRA, the Australian Prudential Regulator Authority, has been clear about their expectation that superannuation trustees consider mergers in the best financial interests of their members. This is what we have currently done. There was no shortage of interested prospective merger partners. As Ken, our chair, mentioned earlier, the trustee board evaluated competitive proposals from 3 potential partners after receiving expressions of interest from a much broader pool. After undertaking an extensive and robust selection process, Hostplus was identified as a preferred partner. We are optimistic that, should the merger proceed, our members and employers will immediately benefit from the resulting economies of scale. The new merged entity would have over 1.4 million members, 258,000 contributing employers, and more than $90 billion in funds under management. There are a number of points I would like to draw your particular attention to. Like statewide super, Host is one of the best long-term performing industry funds. The merger will only take place if it's deemed to be in your best financial interests. And importantly, all local jobs in Adelaide and Darwin will be preserved. This will allow us to retain our unwavering commitment to South Australia and the Northern Territory, and we will continue to provide our excellent local member services, including the statewide super hub in Victoria Square and the office in Darwin. We expect to announce the conclusion of the due diligence process before Christmas. If the merger is determined to be in our members' best interests, we will also announce the expected merger date before the end of the financial year. We'll share full details with our members as soon as we are able. Finally, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, our statewide members. You are the reason this fund exists, and everything we do is to help ensure you have a more dignified and comfortable retirement. I'll now ask our Chief Investment Officer, Con Michaelakis, to provide an investment update for the fund. Thank you again for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Tony, and welcome to our members. When I think about the past financial year and even the most recent numbers ending September 2021, I note what an extraordinary period of time we've lived through since the COVID outbreak in March 2020. The world, including Australia, is working through a post-COVID recovery, and for many across Australia, 2021 was even more difficult than 2020. Yet in terms of superannuation and pension option returns, the past 15 months have seen positive performance and increases in retirement balances. I will discuss our returns right up to the end of September 2021. For example, at the end of the September quarter 2021, the 1-year return of the MySuper default option, net of fees and taxes, was 18.90%. The 7-year return of 8.94% and puts us amongst the top 6 funds in Australia out of 44 funds, according to the Super Ratings September 2021 performance survey. Other higher risk options have performed even better. Our high growth Australian shares and international shares returned 23.58%, 32.18% and 29.64% over 1 year ending September 21. Just looking at our accumulation options over 7 years, 9 out of 10 have outperformed the median fund, with 5 out of 10 in the top quartile. Our Australian shares and our diversified fixed income options are top performing funds over 7, 10 and 15 years. Our conservative option has also outperformed peers over 5 and 7 years. Our goal remains the same. We strive to provide superior outperformance over the medium to long term, which is 5+ years net of fees and taxes. I'd like to spend some time discussing the economic outlook, particularly after these extraordinarily good returns in recent times. The anticipated outlook for Australia, and indeed the world, is economies recovering from the recent outbreaks, vaccine effectiveness, and the gradual return to a more normal way of life from 2022. We expect the economic conditions for the next 1 to 3 years to provide economic growth, lower unemployment, and higher wage growth. That's the good news. The challenging part concerns the recent supply-side inflation shocks, increasing geopolitical risks in China, and the longer and very important path towards net zero carbon by 2050. These are all big issues, and I will spend some time discussing the first two. The next slide provides some background to anticipation that economic growth should do well over the next few years. The large fiscal stimulus across the world by governments, coupled with lower interest rates, has allowed households to accumulate excess savings. All things being equal, as the world reopens and normalises, those excess savings will be spent and will help to underpin economic growth. We are in the midst of another reopening phase in Australia, following the long COVID-19 winter experienced by Sydney and Melbourne. Globally, the world is also reopening, and we are seeing an increased demand for certain goods precisely at the same time as factories, ships, and indeed manufacturing industries are struggling to keep up and adjust to the post-COVID-19 world. The net effect of all of this is inflation. Now, I do not need to tell you that the cost of filling your car for petrol, buying fruit, veggies, and meat from the market, or buying a new car or computer is more expensive. Prices are going up, and there's a delay in availability of new computers, cars, computer chips, and building materials. In the short term, the risk of inflation outstripping wage growth and delays in providing goods needed to create final products are the biggest risk towards a longer, sustainable economic recovery. In our September quarter, I briefly discussed inflation and why, in our opinion, it doesn't mean it's a long-term threat like what we saw in the 1970s. Nonetheless, we do believe we will experience higher inflation and therefore higher interest rates over the medium term. Higher inflation over time means one thing: higher interest rates. We believe we've seen the low point of interest rates, and over the next few years we will see higher rates across the board. That means higher mortgage rates, higher rates on term deposits, and government bonds at higher yields. I do not want to sound alarmist, but I believe rates will gradually move higher over the next 1 to 3 years in response to the good economic growth and slightly higher inflation. The chart shows the 10-year Australian government bond rate, and we believe after falling below 1% in 2020, it will gradually move up to the 2 to 3% range in 2 to 3 years. The last slide concerns a grey swan. This is the increased geopolitical risk in the South China Sea. There's been an appreciable increase in tensions across the South China Sea. To complicate matters, Taiwan is to computer chips what the Middle East is to oil. Computer chips are the new oil of the modern economy, running innovation, data, artificial intelligence, and therefore your car, television, power, computer, military, medical, and of course your mobile phone. Just this year, we've seen a number of incursions into Taiwanese airspace by China. Moreover, the recent news about AUKUS, the alliance between Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States to build nuclear-powered submarines in Adelaide, has added to regional tensions. We expect tensions will continue for a while. The net effect will force countries like the United States and Australia to diversify their computing chip reliance, which takes time and increased costs. Thankfully, as I write this, dialogue has just started between President Biden and President Xi. The talks have so far covered various issues like climate change, trade and geopolitical security across the region. Lastly, but not on this slide, is the very important path to net zero carbon by 2050. The work will be completed by a proposed merger partner with Hostplus in 2022. The next slide shows some of the investments being made on your behalf that are helping new and emerging businesses to grow, plus some key infrastructure assets. In return, we expect these businesses will offer returns for our members that will aid us in maintaining long-term positive investment performance. Let me introduce you to a few of these. Canva is an online graphic design company that has become one of Australia's most successful ever technology startups. The last valuation makes it about the same size as ANZ or Wesfarmers. Ena Respiratory is about to embark on phase 2 trials, starting soon on its antiviral nasal spray for COVID-19. It may also be effective on influenza and common cold viruses. EBR Systems is a left ventricle wireless pacemaker for heart resynchronisation in heart failure patients. It is expected to list on the Australian Stock Exchange this week. Finally, I will briefly mention the proposed merger between Statewide and Hostplus. As Tony has already detailed, the boards will consider the finalised due diligence within coming weeks. If all things go to plan, we expect to merge with Hostplus in early April 2022. From an investment perspective, I believe there are 3 key reasons why this merger makes sense. The first is product and performance, the second scale, and last but not least, culture. The proposed merger provides our members access to one of the top performing default super funds in Australia. Moreover, there's a broader range of products to choose from to suit different personal circumstances and risk appetites, including a low-cost passive option, a lower fee sustainable option, and self-directed equities and pooled superannuation trusts for those with self-managed super. We do all the work for you as we transfer your assets into Hostplus. You do not need to do anything. The investment merger of assets will likely see what we believe will be the leading investment returns over the next 5+ years. The combined fund is expected to bring what we call scale benefits. These include strong net cash flow, a younger member demographic, and expected total combined assets under management of approximately 90 billion. This scale will allow the combined fund to invest in unlisted infrastructure, enable nation-building new renewable investments, and fund early-stage or fast-growing companies. The younger demographic and strong cash flows allows our older members to benefit from these strategies that should ultimately lead to great retirement balances. Hostplus is a leading super fund investing in early-stage and fast-growing innovative companies. Finally, one of the most important reasons for merging is an alignment of culture. From my perspective, Hostplus and Statewide Super are funds with a lot of similarities in terms of investment philosophy and asset consultant. Today, we have in common nearly half of our assets under management. Statewide Super investment team, including me, are looking forward to joining the Hostplus team in meaningful roles. The team will continue to be based in Adelaide. Should the merger proceed, I will join as part of a 2-person Deputy Chief Investment Officer, reporting to Hostplus Chief Investment Officer Sam Cecilia. I've personally known Sam for more than 25 years, and Sam was once the asset consultant to the old statewide fund back in the early 2000s. Moreover, the teams have worked together on certain investments over the past few years. Personally, I find this merger a very exciting prospect, and I hope you do as well. Let me end with a few points. It's been an unprecedented time for members across the default MySuper options and higher risk options despite the daily disruptions of COVID-19. We're now living in a post-COVID-19 world with a difficult Northern Hemisphere winter expected, but hopefully contained by increasing vaccine use and booster shots. This is not over, but we all hope the worst is well behind us. We expect lower interest rates will continue in the short term, but we do anticipate them rising on the back of a growing economy and moderately higher inflation. In that scenario, we expect soft and hard commodities to continue to outperform, and we are currently avoiding the higher priced glamour shares like buy now, pay later, or electric vehicle car companies. As discussed earlier, we cannot rule out geopolitical tensions, and post-merger, there's work to do on our path to net zero 2050 carbon. Finally, I hope I've given you an idea of the exciting time we anticipate ahead with the proposed merger, and should the merger proceed, the work we are doing to make the transition a smooth one. From a personal perspective, I would like to thank the members for the past 13 years as Chief Investment Officer of Statewide Super. It's been an absolute privilege managing your very important retirement assets. I am excited for what the future holds, and I hope you are too.
Thanks, Con. That concludes the presentation section of our 2021 annual member meeting. Just a reminder that responses to all member questions will be published on our website, along with the meeting minutes within 30 days. Thank you again for joining us.